Hey everybody, Butterbean here tonight by myself right now. But look, we got some great guests tonight. Two close friends of mine. I haven't had guests that were this close to friends of mine. I've known them for a long time, both of them. But first I want to tell you why this podcast is so important to me. People see our highlights in life, but they don't really ever see the downside of what people that's in the media's perception they go through, and a lot of them have real hard times, and they struggle real hard, and they pull it out. And we're very fortunate to get some people that are willing to open up about it. Depression, drug use, sex addiction, to everything. So that's one reason this podcast is so important to me. And me, Boss Rutan, Rick Bassman, Flex Wheeler, we're all really into doing this show. Flex this weekend has some pain where he's not able to make the show tonight. I'm praying for him, and hopefully everybody else does too. Boss is out of the country, but we'll be back next week. We're going to do a podcast from Holland, and I'm excited about that. But let's get this thing going. Let me bring on Rick. Rick Bass has been a close friend of mine for a long time, and we started this podcast doing it just me, him, and a couple other guys just talking, just getting things out. And one of us said, "Hey, let's just do this and let everybody listen." So that's what we're doing. So glad y'all could join us, and let's bring Rick on, Rachel, and then we'll bring the other two guests on. Hey,
Damn, Bean. I feel like I should probably get fired at this point because you're getting so good at this. And, it's like, I'm like, these guys are all famous. My co-hosts, Boss Rutan and Flex Wheeler and Butterbean are famous. But the value I bring is like being the glue to hold this together. But you're becoming so good at this that I'm feeling insecure, Bean. Can you help me here?
Rick, you're doing a great job. I tell you what I'm excited about tonight. Like I said when I got hold of you last week about the one friend of mine that's going to be on tonight. I'm excited about this. And then along with Dan Henderson also, I'm excited about having Marc and Dan on both. It's going to be a good show tonight.
I think this is cool, Bean, and it's this is a little different. Normally I know everybody coming onto the show. I'm pretty sure tonight is the first night we have a guest on that I've never met before, and that's Marc. So I'm excited to see you welcome your two good friends on this show and see where it goes, and getting to catch up with an old friend of Dan and hopefully making a new friend in Marc. So Bean, take it away, man.
Hey, let's bring Marc and Dan both on. And I met Marc back in it was back when I very first started wrestling. He actually brought it to Vince, and he had me and Marc did a skit together, and it really turned out pretty good. Other than him grabbing the wrong stool and cracking me with a real stool, but other than that, it went really good.
And there he is. There's Marc Mero. Hey, Marc, how are you, man?
Butterbean, it's great to see you again, man. And Rick, it's great to meet you, and thank you for having me on the show tonight. I think Bean and I got some great memories from that match back in I think it was 1998, somewhere around there.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah.
I got to read
the crazy thing. The one reason I wanted you on as a guest, I was watching a motivational speaker one day, and I watched him, and he intrigued me. I mean, because everything he said made sense. To who your friends are will show you where you're going to be, to everything. And I'm going, shit, I know that guy. And it was you, Marc. I didn't realize it was you for about 30 to 45 minutes. You are awesome at what you do, my friend.
Well, thank you. This is my 15th year speaking at schools and corporations all over the world, and I couldn't enjoy it more after finding, after leaving professional wrestling. I found this new passion in life and really a calling kind of, and I just love inspiring others.
Yeah, Marc, I was going to say, Ben, it's so good to see Marc. Again, I've never met you before. Of course, I'm well aware of who you are. I'm a fan from the Johnny B. Bad days in WCW through Marc Mero, of course, and WWF, WWE. And I know a lot about you because I've read about you. And I'm so glad to have you on. But Dean, from the time we started the show, has been saying we need to get Marc Mero on the show. So I know this is a big deal for him. He thought he had your number. He wasn't sure. So Diamond Dallas Page was kind enough to give it to me. I hope that's okay. And,
and then I found out I still had the number. It was buried in my phone.
And here you are. And you look exactly as I pictured you would look, Mark, if it was 20 years ago. So,
well, wow. I appreciate that, man. I got to have you doing my PR now.
Right on, Bean. I interrupted you, man. I'm sorry.
Hey, you know,
I mean, like I said, I think Mark's had, some. One thing we do talk about is things that's happened in the past and how we overcome our problems. I mean, I'm sure everybody's got them. I'm sure you've by listening to your motivational speaking that man, it's been a rough going on and off for you.
It has, but through our struggles, guys, we find our strength, and I think. We all go through adversity, every one of us. And, this pandemic has really, affected many people, and some worse than others, with isolation, loneliness, and depression, anxiety, even suicidal thoughts. And I think we all know somebody, or we've been through our own struggles, so we can all relate to it in some way. And I think that's where you find that common ground when I speak to people is realizing how we can help each other. And to help each other, we talk about our struggles, our issues, and we realize, man, we're not alone, and we matter, and we can help someone else by sharing our story. And that's what I do.
So Mark, let me ask you this, man. We all come from, for lack of a better way to say it, from kind of like this tough guy space. And, Bean and I, we share your sensibility, as does Flex, as does Boss. Are you finding in our worlds, whether it's pro wrestling, mixed martial arts, the Hells Angels, guys that might be considered tough guys, the various police departments, are you finding that they're more open to being open these days, or are people still guarding that?
I think that tough guy persona is, we all have to dig down deep when we go into a match, boxing or fighting or whatever it could be. And I think we approach life the same way, as if we've gone through struggles. We realize that, maybe being a tough guy is really talking about it and helping someone else that's going through those struggles also. And we find joy in that. We find fulfillment. We find purpose in our lives, just like we found it in whether it was a boxing ring or the martial arts or whatever it was before that we did. But we can also find it in helping other people. And I find that, man, there's no greater joy in my life now.
Amen, man. And we have so much to talk about with Mark Bean, but I understand that our other friend is backstage. And would you like to bring him on?
Go ahead, Rick. You know Dan a little better than I do, more of his background. Me and him, I just know him from the fights and what friendship we've got backstage. To actually know everything he's accomplished, which I know he's accomplished tons. I really don't know him on that level. I know him more of as just a friend guy in the back dressing room bullshitting with.
I have to say that I don't know Dan that well either, and I'm hoping that changes tonight. We shared a facility years ago when Dan was part of the Raw team, one of the absolute first legendary training groups in mixed martial arts. That's where Randy Couture came from, and guys like Tom Erickson. And Dan's one of the true OGs. So we started together, and I remember this guy who always looks like to the very steely exterior and looks as serious as the day is long. And I know that behind the scenes, he's considered like one of the funniest guys in mixed martial arts. So I hope we get to see that. From a fan perspective, and I've followed this sport from the time Ken Shamrock first walked onto the stage at UFC in 1993. If you're a fan, you look up mixed martial arts records, in my opinion, and I told this to Dan not long ago, he and one other gentleman who's on with us next week, to Garden Saucy, I believe they have far and away the two most impressive records in the history of MMA for who they fought and who they've beaten. So why don't we bring on our guy we're getting to know and our new friend, Dan Henderson.
How's it going, guys?
Doing awesome.
Great.
How's your day going, my friend?
Oh, I can't complain. Just, did some coaching today and handled some things in my gym and living life.
I don't know if you've ever met Marc Mero or talked to him.
I don't believe I have. No. Very nice to meet you, Mark.
Dan, it's a pleasure, man. I've been a big fan of yours and Bean's. I think the thing that's so cool about any match you or Bean have ever been in, it can end at any time with a right hand. And I tell you, it's so exciting to watch you fight over the years. And you really have fought the who's who of mixed martial arts. I mean, there's nobody that you haven't fought that wasn't a top fighter. And my hat's off to you, man. It's a pleasure to meet you. And I'm looking forward to hearing some stories tonight and just sharing with you guys.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, and Bean, this is like part of why Talking Tough is so much fun, because we have two guys. I don't know how your screen is set up, but I'm looking at Dan beneath you on the screen, Mark's beneath me on the screen, and I'm looking at these two guys, one I barely know, one I've never met before, and going, we have legends on here. We have a legend from the mixed martial arts space, an icon from the pro wrestling space, and it's just fun to get to introduce you guys. So that's what I wanted to say about that.
Like when I first opened up, I was telling people how this originally started. Me, you, Tom Howard, a couple other close friends, just bullshitting. Like, hey, like if we're having a bad day, we'd tell each other and maybe help each other out, and because they can relate to the problems that we've had on a different level of a lot of people can't really understand what we got to go through all the time. And we all decided we should let everybody listen, and I think it's turning out pretty good.
Yeah, Dan and Mark, and we should dive into that stuff. And Bean, you're good about getting that out of people. So let me set it up this way, guys. We'll get thousands of comments. People come on here because they want to hear about Dan Henderson's toughest fight, and they want to hear about Marc Mero's craziest backstage story. And it's fun to talk about that stuff, and we should. But then we always segue over into what's the toughest challenge been in your life? And we've had guys come on here, like I know Don Fry won't mind this. Don Fry revealed on Talking Tough that he had been the victim of molestation. And who would have ever thought that about Don Fry? And he revealed that for the first time, because when we have guys that are, look like tough guys on the surface and are, of course, legitimately, everyone seems to open up and get into it. What we find from our fans, our listeners, is they write us going, oh my God, I can't believe that, Dan went through this or Mark went through that. It makes me feel so much stronger about what I'm facing in my life right now. And for that reason, the show tends to inspire. So, Bean, if you want to take the lead and dive into it, man, please do.
Yeah, I really don't know where to start. I mean, they're both awesome guys. I just, like Dan, have you ever had any kind of injury or anything that really brought you down that you just, because I know you ended up on top. I mean, but there's got to be some part of your life that I don't know if it's worth it or not.
I've had some pretty good injuries over the years, but nothing that mentally made me think, why am I doing this or anything like that. I just, kind of deal with the injury and work through it till it doesn't hurt anymore. Sometimes I get to keep training through it. Sometimes I have to take some time off, but I know that way back in the day before I even started fighting, I was just wrestling internationally. I hurt my neck and I had to deal with that and then I made 2 Olympic teams and then I started fighting after that. And 20 years later, after I fought for 20 years, I went and had neck surgery when I was done, and it feels a lot better now. I should have done that a long time ago. But
you fought when you had the neck injury.
Yeah, but my body just protected itself so well. After the pain kind of went away, I didn't have very much mobility in my neck. I'd always have to turn my whole body to look around, but my body just protected itself. That my neck muscles were huge, and I didn't have, I couldn't turn my head very well, but it worked fine. It didn't bother me the last probably 10 years of my fighting career.
Wow.
Dan,
do you have any bad injuries, Mark?
I've like everybody in our industry, I've had 14 surgeries, total reconstruction of my knee, 5 elbow surgeries, 5 shoulder surgeries, nose, I had open heart surgery. So I've been through my share of hospital visits, but I feel great. I'm 61 years old now. I feel like,
wow, you don't
look like a kid again,
you don't know it's that old. I'm sorry. But
Yeah,
You look awesome, man.
well, thank you, my friend. But when I hear Dan's story, I think me, I should have surrounded myself with more guys like Dan when I was going through my issues.
So, Mark, 14 surgeries. That's funny. I've had 14 surgeries, so I had a comment on that. It's interesting that we have the same number. But that aside, beyond injury, you guys, and this is diving in, and this is personal. I hope you don't mind. But Bean and I and Boss and Flex and guys that have been on really, get into it. Myself, for instance, I laid in a hospital bed for 3 years, dying from stage 4 lung cancer. I had other times in my life where I was addicted and depressed and homeless all at the same time. Not a combination I recommend to anybody. Dan and Mark, you guys are icons. You have so many fans that look up to you. Is there a condition that you wouldn't mind sharing that you guys have experienced and been through that is so horrific that you tell people about it and they're going to feel like they can share an experience with you and be inspired through that?
Well, if I can, I'm going to be totally honest here, and this is what I share when I speak at schools or corporations, when I really want to help other people. But, you guys know that I was a boxer before I was a wrestler. I won the New York State Golden Gloves a few years in a row, and then I went to the USA boxing team in Colorado Springs, Colorado. The Olympics were boycotted in 80. I was there in 81. And at that time, I didn't want to wait 3 more years to try to make the Olympic team, so I decided to turn professional. I had a 5-fight contract with ESPN at the time, and I was getting ready for my first pro fight. It was in my hometown, and I've never trained harder for anything in my entire life. Ran more miles, did more wind sprints. 2 weeks before my first pro fight, I get my nose shattered in an accident. I needed reconstructive surgery. In that time, the doctors said it'd be 8 months to a year before I could really come back and start having full contact again. And my whole life I was in sports, with football, hockey, boxing. So I was always playing 3 sports a year, always training, always into that with the jocks and stuff. And it was the first time in my life I had all this free time in my hands. And sometimes when we have a lot of free time, we're presented with a lot of choices. And guys, I started making some really bad ones. I mean, life-changing bad choices. And the first thing I did wrong, man, I started hanging out with the wrong people. And these friends would be partying and doing drugs and everything. And next thing I know, I'm getting high every week. And I remember kept thinking, I'd be at parties drunk and go, hey guys, I'm coming back in 1 year. I'm going to be champ of the world. I do this week after week, month after month. Well, 1 year turned into 2 years. 2 years turned into 4 years. And 4 years turned to 10 years of my life of drug addiction. And it was in those times, the only job I could get with my limited high school education was in construction, like building swimming pools or something like that, And I remember being at the bottom of those pools and just thinking, man, how did I get here? I was once a top flight athlete in hockey, football, boxing. And here I am, just a drug addict, And that's when the story about my mom came about where she would wait up all night for me. I'd be out drunk and high with my friends, and we'd pull up in front of my house. The lights would all be on, and she'd be waiting up for me. And all she ever wanted to do was talk to me. I used to blow her off and slam my door or whatever, just treat her horrible. And in that time, I had a bunch of friends over my apartment, and I was flipping through the TV. My buddy was flipping through the T channels, and he landed on professional wrestling. And I just remember going, hey guys, man, I could do that. And they all busted out laughing. They go, Mark, look at the size of those guys. They're going to pick you up over their head and throw you right out of that ring. I go, man, I'm telling you, I could do that. Well, anyways, long story short, I found out where there was a wrestling school, and I started going there after work and on weekends. 1 year later, I signed a big contract with World Championship Wrestling as the character Johnny B. Bad. And that's how my whole life took off, and got off the drugs, made it into wrestling. And then I started partying with the wrestlers, being on the road, doing the coke all the time and getting high. And then I started missing matches. And I remember Dusty Rhodes pulled me in the office and he says, kid, I made you and I'm going to break you. You miss one more match and you're done with your career. And it straightened me out for a while, but I was still hooked on drugs, and my life spun out of control, went through divorce and everything. And it got to the point where I just didn't want to be here anymore. The depression, the anxiety, everything that came into play through the drug abuse and the getting high all the time, I just felt like, what was the use of living? I became a multi-millionaire, lost it all, then through the divorces and everything, just bad bad financial decisions, all the mistakes I made. It just got to a point where I just felt as depressed as I could possibly be, where I just wanted to end my life. And it was really at that point where, I had a choice. Either I'm going to end my life or I'm going to and I got on my knees and I just prayed to God. It was a coming home to Jesus moment for me, man. I just asked Christ into my life and it changed everything. And next thing I know, I was asked to speak at a high school and in another school, and then they told another school, and it just snowballed. And I was averaging 230 a year for the first 13 years. And of course, the pandemic came, and we've been off just doing virtual. We're just now back at schools. So I just started back in schools. But the video that went viral, some of my videos that have gone viral where millions of people have seen it, Butterbean, in fact, the one you saw was actually filmed by, Diamond Dallas Page was on your show a couple weeks ago, I believe, wasn't he? Yeah. Yeah, his crew filmed that. And I'll never forget, Dallas called me up. He goes, "Hey, bro, you mind we put this up on YouTube?" I said, "Sure, go right ahead." And he goes, "You never know, it could go viral." And next thing you know, millions of people saw that. And we had the first month, we had 3,000 booking requests to go around the world. We've been everywhere, to Russia, Guatemala. And that's what I do for a living now. And it's the greatest living I could ever imagine. And not only that, but been clean since 2003. So, I'm on my 18th, 19th year clean.
Well, first, congratulations. Wow.
But right now, I'm having a lot of trouble getting around walking because of my back and hip. Starting March 1st, me and Dallas are actually doing a reality type based show. I'm going to move in with him in Atlanta and live with him for 3 months.
I live down the street from him, man.
And he's going to get me back on track and get me up and moving again.
Oh, Bean, that's great. Well, you're going to see me there because I train with him a lot at his home doing the DDPY. So I'll be glad to join you guys, man, and see that transformation. That's awesome.
I gained a ton of weight. I mean, I was over 500 pounds.
What are you right now?
Right now, I'm at 365.
Okay, that's great. So you dropped.
Yeah, I did a lot of gain and went down, up, back, and right now I've been like, man, if you see what I was eating, it sucks. But I'm so determined right now, and I want to work with Dallas and not as much the weight loss that I'll lose when I'm there. It's just be able to get motivated to moving again. I think that's the main thing.
Well, you're going to get a lot of inspiration from him and flexibility and everything that he does with all the people that he has helped through his DDPY, the yoga program he's got. It's incredible. I love working out with him. We have a great time together. He's been one of my closest friends for the last, we've been friends since 1990. So think about that, man. 30 years we've been friends. It's incredible. Yeah. And we wrestle each other hundreds of times, and we fought in more pay-per-views against each other than any other wrestler I think I wrestled.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for Bean and Paige to work together. It's been a long time coming. Dan, have you ever done pro wrestling?
That's got to hit viral somewhere.
I have not done any pro wrestling at all, and I don't know if I have the the right personality for that. But I mean, obviously I can wrestle, but I'm not good at talking shit. So
I'm shocked to hear that you haven't done any. As big of a superstar as you were in Japan, I thought they would have pulled you into it somewhere along the trail.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I never got asked over there, but kind of, I think the pride, the demise of pride kind of happened a little bit on, quickly and suddenly. And I didn't know it was happening until it was already happening. And all of a sudden we were done going to Japan, after that. So, and I was pretty busy with my MMA career at the time as well. And would rather be doing that than pro wrestling, I guess. Cause like I said, I'm not good at talking smack.
It's funny, man. I don't think I ever told you this before, but Marc and Bean, we used to share a training facility in El Segundo by Los Angeles Airport. And that's when I had my school running, UPW. And I had some of the biggest guys in the world training in that ring with us, and some legit tough guys also. You probably remember Sylvester Turkai and whatnot. But mainly they're just giant guys, six, no pro wrestling exaggeration, 6'8", 400. We had a lot of guys like that. And Dan was training there. And we often talked, Dan, about inviting you in to train with us. And everybody was terrified. They're like, he's gonna think it's a shoot, and let's not ask him. We had that conversation many times.
Oh, I'm not that mean of a guy.
All right, man. They didn't want to mess with you.
You know who Don Fruiton is. Boss. Well, has told us he's been injured more doing pro wrestling than he did while any legit fight he's ever had. He's got injured more in pro wrestling than he did with real fights.
You know what it is?
Surprised.
You know what it is about pro wrestling, though, is, like even in boxing, the only time I got hurt was that one time where I shattered my nose. But other than that, I never really got hurt in boxing. But wrestling, because we did 250 matches a year. We were always on the road. Your body never got proper rest. You're staying up all night, you're partying, and you're getting slammed every day. You don't always land right, and you're wrestling different guys, and some guys are real stiff, some guys are real easy to work with. It's a dance, and not only does that dance always go well, so it just takes a toll on your body. You tweak an ankle, you twist your shoulder or something, and it's like you wrestle in pain. And that's why the pain medication was so addicting, and many wrestlers that have passed on from years of abuse.
I don't know how they do it now. I'll be honest because they're really strict on the medication now with the wrestlers.
They are, but they don't wrestle nearly like we used to. They do about 80 matches a year compared to our 250 when I was there.
I done a show with Hulk Hogan called Hulk Hogan Celebrity Wrestling. It was a month-and-a-half shoot, and I tell you what, by the end of it, I could barely move. And I'm not joking. I could barely move.
Well, they say wrestling is fake, but gravity is real. So.
Yeah.
I agree with that. It's 100% true on that one.
Yeah.
Bottom line, Mark, you can't fake throwing your back onto a piece of wood, can you?
No, and those steel chairs really are steel.
Yeah, yes.
And the wood chairs are supposed to come apart when you get hit with them.
Sometimes we got to tell
the wrong damn stool.
We got to tell that story. Okay, so B and I are fighting in a 4-man tough man contest, and the end of the match is supposed to be, B knocks me out, but I get up and I take the stool and I bust Bean over the head with a stool, and it's a breakaway stool. It's supposed to splinter in a million pieces. Okay. Well, there's 2 stools underneath the ring, one for me to sit on in between rounds, and of course the breakaway stool, that's the gimmick stool. Well, the trainer hands me the wrong stool. So when it's time for me to hit Bean over the head, I swung this stool as hard as I could, and it didn't break. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh. So when I'm in this live pay-per-view, so I swing it again on Bean, and just the top, the round part just falls off, and it didn't splinter. And that night at dinner, Bean said to me, he goes, I thought that chair was supposed to break away. My head is killing me, man.
Well, wait a sec. You're trying to tell us this wasn't real? You just shattered all my illusions here, Mark.
Just this one match. That's it.
Too real. Hey, guys, we had a comment from a fan asked Dan saying that they love Pride and the weight differentials. Now, that was a different day back then. We won't see that anymore, maybe in some odd country. But Dan, what's the biggest weight difference you ever fought with, and who was it?
I don't know. That's a tough one because I don't know. It's hard to say. I know that when I fought in that King of Kings tournament over in Japan, I was one of the smaller guys. I don't think I was the smallest guy, but I probably weighed at around 190 to 95. And Big Nog and Babalu were both pretty heavy, like in the 255, 260 range. Mm-hmm. That might have been close to the biggest weight differential. I did fight a lot of bigger guys, but they were more in the 220 to 240 range. And I slowly got bigger up to about 200.
So, I can see.
Did you ever fight a bigger guy or a smaller guy?
What?
Hey, would you rather fight a bigger guy? Because I mean, we're slower supposedly, or would you rather fight someone your own size or smaller?
You know, I didn't really care. I mean, honestly, I didn't mind fighting the bigger guys. Yeah, they were a bit slower, but they hit a little bit harder. But some of the big guys are pretty quick too, you know. But my biggest thing was just being in the right position and being more technical, and size doesn't matter as much when you're doing it right.
Dan, you know, you always struck me as a guy who, and I mean this in a good way, that just didn't care. And what I mean by that is, like you mentioned Big Nog a second ago, who's considered now legitimately the #2 heavyweight of all time after Fedor. That's where most rankings would place him. Now, if you're going to go fight, you know, Jan Norche, the giant, there's not a big skill set there.
Right.
What's your mindset going into a match with a guy like Big Nog, who's as big as he is and as good as he is? Do you start to doubt yourself, or is it another day at the office?
No, and I get asked that all the time. What's my mindset? But I mean, if I had any doubts about my ability, I wouldn't be going into that fight. I shouldn't be going into that fight. You know, self-confidence is a huge part of being good at what you do, no matter what it is. And you know, and I had quite a bit of it. And I think that came from the way I trained and how technical I was. And I knew I was better than these other guys. I might not be quicker, I might not be stronger, but I know technically I was better, and I know I hit hard, and I could change the fight at any time. And that was my mindset. It doesn't matter who they were. You know, I don't necessarily come up with a game plan to fight right into their strengths. I kind of try to control the fight and make it mine. And you know, it worked out pretty well most of the time for me. Sometimes it doesn't quite work out, and they end up controlling the fight, and next thing you know, you're tapping out.
So when you are controlling it, like it's a fan question, I admit it. So you beat Fedor Emelianenko when he was considered downright unbeatable. You were fighting as a light heavyweight. He was a legit, pretty heavyweight, who's now considered the #1 heavyweight of all time. Did you go into that fight with the same mindset, or were you surprised when you beat him? I have to know.
No, I went into this with the same mindset, but I can tell you that my wife and a bunch of my corner guys were a little more nervous for that fight than the usual fight. But in my mind, I was gonna do my thing and not let him do his thing, and you know, it worked out like that. You know, he came out swinging at me, trying to knock my head off. I think I kind of caught him off guard when I tried to touch gloves with him right at the beginning, and after we touched gloves, then he tried to knock my head off right away. And I remember hitting him with a pretty good left hook as he was coming at me, and it backed him up. And you know, I think that's when he figured out that the little guy can hit hard too. So and then it was a pretty good back and forth fight after that.
So when that fight ended, you didn't go, "Oh my God, I won!" Like it was a big surprise. You're like, "Okay, great, another win." I mean,
no, I did. I was pretty happy about that. That was a huge one. It was, you know, in my mind, I think that for my career, that might have been that was my biggest accomplishment as a fighter, between him and when I beat Vanderlei Silva and got the second Pride belt.
Yeah, those are two beasts, man. Yeah, we talked about your record. It's just it boggles my mind, the guys that you have fought and the record you compiled, man. It's amazing.
Two great fights with Bisping too, man. Those were wow. Those were some good fights.
Yeah, Bisping was definitely the fan favorite of my career for sure. They liked that I shut his mouth up, but it didn't shut up for more than a couple months.
And that was personal for you, wasn't it? I remember that 1 second after the fight was over, and it looked very, very personal at Marc and Dan. I don't know if you know what I'm referring to, And Dan, I hope you don't mind me putting it this way, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Dan already put his lights out, and then he put them out again.
Well, yeah. I can tell you that it wasn't personal for me. I did that against Vanderlei when I knocked him out. It just, kind of felt better against Bisping. The only time that I really had some personal feeling and gave a little bit extra oomph is when I fought Lombard, only because he kind of said some things 2 or 3 days before the fight, and I didn't like it. So,
okay,
and it was kind of fresh. But no, I would have done that to just to make sure the fight was done. I knocked him out and followed up with one punch, and it was a good one. But I did that to Vanderlei. I think I hit him 1 or 2 or 3 times after I knocked him out, but just to make sure the fight's over. But
right.
No, I wasn't really. I didn't take anything Bisping did during our Ultimate Fighter filming personal. I just thought he was a douchebag, and that's kind of how I fought him. And I knew I wasn't worried about him. I knew I was going to beat him up, and just kind of stalk him down. And I knew I was a better fighter.
Oh,
Mark, I ask you a question. When I first went into wrestling, it was actually my first match I had with the WWF, and some of the guys said something that didn't make sense to me because to me, wrestling was all like everybody knows what's going to happen. It's all set up, and somebody said, yeah, but there's a lot of like I'm trying to find the right word. Competition in pro wrestling, and I didn't get that at first until after a while. What was your biggest competition in pro wrestling? Like, who was it with and against?
Well,
you can explain what I'm saying, where people can understand.
Well, first of all, there's only so many spots available for television when you really think about it. With Monday Night Raw and and the SmackDown and stuff, there's only so many spots available. And let's say I'll throw out a number. Let's just say there's 25 spots available for television, and you got 40, 50 guys in the roster. Everybody's vying for spots. You want to be on television. You want to, and it also goes into contract negotiation and stuff like that. So it's very competitive. There's very political behind the scenes. So you don't really make a lot of lifelong friends in that business. It's very difficult to make lifelong friends in the wrestling industry because of the politicalness of it. You have cliques and things like that. There's just a few guys that
down the steps where you can't. I got you.
Yeah, there's just a few guys that really remain long-term friends. I consider like friends for life out of the industry. But it's very political. It's very competitive, and it's something that I had 3 years left on my guaranteed contract, and I just had enough. I walked away and said, "Screw it, man, I'm done," and went on with my life. And I couldn't be happier now in my life.
Yeah, you look great, and you sound. I can't believe you're 61, man. That's incredible. And I appreciate what you went through with the decades of abuse, what you described earlier with the addiction and the toll it takes on your body. So, man, you're obviously you're doing something right, no doubt about it. And it's and I got to tell you, Mark, it's gratifying to see because, like yourself, I'm sure, like being like Dan, we've had so many friends pass and people that aren't doing well. So it's always like so great to talk with someone who's happy with their life and doing well. So I just wanted to say that for the sake of saying it.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. It's life is about our choices. We're defined by the choices we make in our life. And like I said earlier, we become who we surround ourselves with. I tell these students, show me your friends, and I'm going to show you your future.
Yep. Ain't that. Dan, who you hanging out with these days, man?
I don't know. I hang out with my wife all the time, but no, I been told this number of times when I have somebody that I know, kind of know, or they're kind of a friend, and then they come in to an event or a party or barbecue with a lot of my friends there, everybody says that, you know, how great my friends are. And I'm like, well, you know, the other ones don't last too long. The older I get, the better my friends are. And it's exactly what Marc just said, you know, except for I'm, you know, 51 now and already weeded out the bad ones. So, you know, I don't have any of those bad life stories that you know, Marc just told, but I definitely, you know, have made bad choices in my life, but I've kind of stayed on a path. I mean, I was competing my whole life. I started wrestling when I was 5 years old, 2 Olympic teams, and right into MMA. So I mean, if I kind of made some bad choices and started down the rabbit hole, you know, with drugs and alcohol, I wouldn't have been able to have a 20-year MMA career either, you know. So I do believe that the path that I was on with competing my whole life was definitely, even though it beat my body up, it was a healthy way to live life compared to what the alternative could have been. You never know.
So
There was one person that kicked your ass when you were starting to slip and slide and go in the wrong direction. I know there was somebody.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
I go, there's got to be some person in your life that said, "Hey, dude, you're screwing up. You need to do like this." And,
Well,
I mean, I don't know if you listen to him. I tell my son that all the time. He never listens to me until after he screws up. Then he comes back and says, "Damn, I wish I listened to you, Dad."
Well, my dad was my wrestling coach through as a kid, through high school, not in college, but through 2 Olympic teams. He was one of the coaches that I had, and you know, was kind of there most of the time. We got away and away from the coaches, and there was trips to Russia that we had for training. That, you know, the longest one was 4 months. There was 5 of us wrestlers there, no coaches. We were there with the Russian coaches, and you know, we did our share of partying, but no drugs, and you know, just alcohol, and we didn't get too hardcore with it, but you know, we kind of reined each other in and you know, made sure, you know, everybody was making it a practice, and if they didn't, they were going to hear from it, you know, from us. You know, if you can't handle it, don't be partying the next, you know, if you can't get up and work out the next day.
So Dan, someone can say that to you, and I understand that. But here, I'm gonna try to articulate this question as best as I can. Marc, you know, from the world you're in especially, how many guys could you name that were stars that didn't go astray? Probably not many, if any at all. I know I can't. And that applies to mixed martial arts. I mean, Dan, even your friends, my friends who grew up as world-class athletes, Mark Coleman, Mark Kerr, Kurt Angle, they all went that way for a while. How did you stay above the fray? Was it a day-to-day conscious decision, or is it just who you are? Because, dude, that's wholly unusual to find someone in that position.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's who I am, because I've never had the desire to go and do certain drugs. I mean, yeah, I've especially, you know, the last couple of years that, one, I've been retired, and two, it's some pretty much legalized in California, just smoking a little pot here and there or trying that. But that's about the only thing I've ever done in my life besides drinking. And believe me, I party after a fight. I'm partying quite a few nights for the next couple of months until my next training camp. And, you know, I gave myself, before each fight, I would not drink a sip of alcohol 2 months out of a fight. And, you know, that also helped. You know, I was serious about my career, and if I had a shitty practice one day because I was out drinking, you know, those add up. If I have 5 or 10 of those in a training camp, you know, I could have been that much more prepared instead, you know. But I make up for it after my fight, that's for sure. So I didn't feel like it was.
How many times you've been asked since you've been retired is, when are you going to fight again? I can barely walk. I still get people ask me, "Are you gonna fight again?" I'm going, "I'm on a scooter chair right now. I can barely move around." Hell no, I'm not. I mean, I'm happy being retired, but I mean, if I could get around really good, I don't know. It might be tempting.
You got to do like the wheelchair boxing.
I actually thought about it. I really did.
I don't know, Mark. I think after Dallas Page gets through with Beam, we might see one more comeback.
You never know, man. Like I say never. But it's tragic to see guys that were in our industry that that someone has to start a GoFundMe page for them or something that they're going through, whether it's a surgery or something that they're dealing with, their drugs or whatever it could be. And it's tragic because you see them, you make a lot of money in the industry for a while. And then, then all of a sudden there's not that financial freedom anymore, money coming in. And all of a sudden you have to be prepared for retirement. You have to be prepared for after your next career. And a lot of guys don't have a career after the lights go out,
Yeah, that's definitely tough.
So,
But
Dan,
a lot of the guys and people have what I call stripper syndrome. They make killer money. They think it's going to last forever.
mm-hmm.
Well, I definitely called myself a stripper back in the day after I was done wrestling and I started fighting in Pride. I mean, they would pay me in American cash, and I literally, said I was only going to do this for about a year and then do what I was going to do. And, 2-3 years, the years started rolling on and I felt like I was an old, just a stripper, just liking the cash a little bit too much to go do what I had planned on doing instead, but when I was wrestling, kind of like what Mark said, 240 matches a year, I was having about 50 to 60 matches a year. My body felt more beat up wrestling than it did when I started fighting. I was only competing 3 times a year. So between my body feeling better and earning actual cash, that was definitely, I was a stripper for a little while.
See, I had a lot. I fought actually 4 fights in 1 month. I mean, I'm talking Pride in Japan, in California, I was in China, all in the same month.
How many rounds was it though?
Some of them went, some of them were long fights. So I had 2 Pride fights that were, the 10-minute round fights.
Yeah, I remember those. Yeah, I remember those when you were there.
Most of them were MMA fights at that point. 1 boxing and then 3 MMA.
Yeah, I had 3 MMA fights in one night. That was probably my toughest night of fighting that I've ever had.
Dan, what organization was that for?
That was in King of Kings. It was Rings. Rings was the organization, and their tournament was King of Kings. It was their 32-man unlimited weight class tournament.
Dan, did you go on to win that tournament?
I'm sorry?
Did you go on to win that tournament? If you won,
I won the tournament. It was. I fought the first 2 fights in one event, and then went back for the next 3 fights in the next event. But it was kind of a bracket, so the quarters, the semis, and the finals were all in one night. So that was definitely I kind of blew out my knee a little bit in my second fight and had to man it up for my final fight.
Wow. So, I know we could just look this up. We could Google it, but who'd you fight that night, Dan, for the quarters, semis, and finals?
I believe it was Gilbert Yvel, Big Nog, and Babalu.
Wow, what an easy lineup. Holy shit. Wow. Gilbert Evo, if you guys don't know him, is considered probably the dirtiest fighter of all time. Did he pull any of his tricks on you?
Yeah. He didn't get DQ'd, but he did some nasty stuff.
Right. And wow, that's quite a lineup for one night. Holy cow. So if you were fighting in Pride back in 2001 and they said your opponent tonight is Butterbean at the height of his fame and career in Japan with Pride. What would your strategy have been going in to fight Butterbean?
I don't know, man.
I have to put the Butterbean
Obviously,
rule.
I don't want to stand. Obviously, I wouldn't want to stand up with him. I wouldn't want to shoot on him and have him sprawl and flatten me out either. So I don't know. I'd probably get in the clinch with him and just hang on him and wear him out a little bit. Hold on to him, because that's kind of was my style anyway, because of my Greco wrestling background. I'd get in there in the clinch and just kind of hold on to him.
Dan, if I was working your corner, I would have gave you the stool. Okay, just didn't even have it.
The breakaway stool.
No.
Oh, you would have
even the real stool. The real stool didn't knock him out.
Yeah, that probably would have worked. Yeah, that would have helped.
It was always fun watching fighters come up with strategies to fight Bean. I cornered Bean I don't know how many times around the world, and in Hawaii, I actually booked his opponent, which is a 6'6", 270-pound pro wrestler by the name of Aaron Aguilera, who opened the fight with a flying dropkick. So it was always straight up pro wrestling style dropkick. People were always trying to pull out different tricks with B, and it was pretty entertaining.
My most memorable fight, and I'm going to ask you what your fight most memorable. Like, I fought Cabbage Herrera, and he elbowed me, knocked my front teeth out. I pulled the mouthpiece out. I pulled the teeth out, put it back in, and went at it. I get more comments about that fight than any fight I've ever had. What fight to you brings that kind of memory?
Oh, I know that when I fought Big Nog the second time, and it was on like 10 days notice, I lost the fight, but that was probably one of the funner fights I've had, because he almost submitted me about 4 times, and I just kept getting out and then kept getting out. And then, finally 3 minutes left in the fight, I kind of got a little bit worn out, and pushing his bigger body around, I got worn out, and he did end up armbarring me, but that was probably one of the funnest fights I've had.
Big Nog. Wow.
There wasn't any big story other than my elbows being super sore for a couple weeks after that from escaping the submissions, but there wasn't any teeth falling out.
It just blows me away, Dan, that you as a very storied light heavyweight beat the top heavyweight ever and almost beat the number 2 heavyweight ever. So it's incredible. And on stories of big matches, Mark, who is your favorite opponent of all time in pro wrestling? And if you don't mind sharing, who was your least favorite?
My favorite, well, I got to give a couple guys favorite, because like I said, it's a dance. There's some guys that I worked really well with. Stone Cold Steve Austin, I beat him when I won the tournament for the Intercontinental title. We had a great match in King of the Ring. Was a fantastic match. Guys that were easy to work with, like Ric Flair or Eddie Guerrero. But I always enjoyed wrestling Diamond Dallas Page, because sometimes it was like a real fight, because he was really physical, and I liked that. So he was fun to work with. We worked each other a couple hundred times around the world, but the least favorite, he's friends now, but at the time we were not very good friends. Bradshaw. I don't know if you know who Bradshaw was.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's funny about John. John's been on our show, actually, and he's such an interesting guy. It's like I would say I've become real friends with him just in the past year. He always was nice. He always treated me well, a lot better than he treated others. But you hear so many horrible things about him, and then you get to know him, and what a cool guy. So
he does a lot for the community. He does, I believe it's in Haiti. Yeah. He builds water things for them and stuff. But so much respect for him now. But at the time when we were at WWE, he did not like me, and of course I didn't like him. We actually fought in the Butterbean, when Butterbean came in, and we had like a tough man contest, and I had to fight Bradshaw in a tough man contest. So we went to boxing, but you could take the guy down too. So we went to 3 rounds. It was 3 rounds, and we went to a draw. And then we had to go one more round, and they gave him the decision. but he ended up getting knocked out by Bart Gunn, and that's when Butterbean came in for the pay-per-view and knocked out Bart Gunn.
Yes, one of the ugliest knockouts of all time. Dan, have you ever seen that?
Scary. It was really scary.
I don't know if I've seen that or
I
not.
thought I really hurt him. I really did. It was scary to me too.
Yeah, it was. But it just goes to show that a seasoned boxer like Bean was no match for any of the guys in the wrestling industry in that type of format. Just no match.
Yeah,
he actually went on to have some really good MMA fights.
I'm sorry?
Bart actually went on to have some really good MMA fights.
Yeah, he's a tough guy. No doubt about it, man.
He just had the wrong strategy against me.
Yeah. Well,
he just went right at it, just swinging away instead of trying to box.
A good wrestler can take down a boxer pretty easily, usually, and especially in a format like that. So I was at quite a disadvantage in a sense, being taken down and with gloves on too, so it's a little weird thing.
Yeah, Dan, what Mark's talking about, I don't know if you saw it or not, but in my opinion, at least, Mark, a pretty badly misconceived idea to take a bunch of their named pro wrestlers and put them in a single elimination tournament called the Brawl for All, which were, I think 1 minute rounds, right, Mark?
1 minute.
3 1 minute rounds.
3 minute rounds, just going out there and going for it,
So
it was like
takedowns allowed. Sorry, Dan?
I said, so it was like one of the old tough man tournaments that with pro wrestlers though.
Yeah, well, takedowns were allowed and boxing and big gloves. So, kind of negated the ability for takedowns.
I don't know if you call them big gloves or not, but they won the 10 ounce that I'd love to have fought with.
Right. And a lot of the guys got hurt in that, huh, Mark? Most of the guys.
Oh my gosh, it was all these guys with big contracts are now sidelines for months with blown out knees or shoulders or whatever. So many guys got seriously hurt in it, and it was not a good idea. It put a lot of guys on the sidelines,
I'll be honest, it worked out great for me.
Well, yeah, you were the star of the pay-per-view, man.
That was a hell of a deal. Yeah, Dan, what happened with that was they created this tournament with the idea of this one guy who they brought in, Dr. Death Steve Williams. This tournament was designed to really get him over and create him as a new ultra tough guy in WWF at the time. But it was real. I mean, there was a shoot. So the miscalculated, a guy named Bart Gunn, who we're talking about here, knocked Dr. Death out. So they killed all their plans. And as a punishment for WrestleMania, they brought Butterbean in to fight this guy, Bart Gunn. And that's kind of how that whole thing.
He actually trained for a year for that fight, though. But I think the trainers did not train him correctly. They trained him like a boxing match.
Right. It was not great. It was not great.
It actually turned all the way around backwards.
So, guys, we're at the end of an hour here, and I appreciate both you guys coming on so much. Thank you. And it's a little bit of a tough question for a wrap up, but so people out there listening now, people that are going to listen and watch this later, we all know that in general, guys are suffering these days. It's a tough world to live in right now. Can you give anybody and everybody out there your best one motivational, pull yourself up by the bootstraps advice? Because I know people love to hear this from you guys.
Well, I can just say from my own personal experience, and anyone that's going through an issue in their life right now, whether it's depression or financial woes or hardships or suicidal thoughts or whatever it may be, man, please know that you're not alone and talk to someone, man. Yeah. Some of us tough guys want to hold it inside and feel like we could just handle it ourselves, and we can't always handle things ourselves. So please talk to someone. And, you can find me very easily if you ever want to write to me or email me or text me or something, man. I'll do my best to help you out, especially if you've been in some of the industries and the things that we've done. Me, Dan, Bean, all three of us, we've been through a lot in our lives, and just know that you're going to get through it. After every storm, the sun will eventually shine, And believe me, it's going to be brighter than you could ever imagine. Just don't give up.
That's great, man. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Surround yourself with good people that, sometimes make the hard decision and kind of get rid of the ones that are kind of leading you in the wrong direction and kind of basically set a goal and try to get there, even if it's for the day, try to reach that goal and then set one for the week, then for the month, and eventually you'll start seeing the right path that you should be going on. And you always just have to have confidence in yourself that you could do it. If you didn't have self-confidence, then that's a tough thing, but you got to kind of dig deep and know that you could do certain things. And like I said, setting goals is a huge thing. 1 day, 2 days, a week, a month, a year, eventually those goals get farther away and you're still going to be walking towards them. So, that's the biggest thing that I think is, or a big thing in life that has helped me.
That's awesome. Thank you, man. It just occurred to me, Dan and Bean, if anybody out there does want a word from you guys are both on Cameo. I know that. Butterbean, Henderson. Mark, are you on Cameo?
I am. Yes.
You are. All three of you are on Cameo. So people can reach out to you that way as well. I just thought I would mention that. If you know people out there, someone else that's suffering, that's a fan of Butterbeans or Marc Mero's or Dan Henderson's, get a Cameo. Send it to your friend, man. That's a really cool thing. You'll light their day up, no doubt about it.
And one more thing I always like to say, Rick, you know what? The people you love, make sure they know you love them. Just tell them you love them every once in a while. I love all my friends, and and I'm not afraid to say it, guys. So just let your friends know that you love them.
That's
Absolutely.
Great. And on that note, my friend Eric, would you like to wrap us up for the evening?
I'm gonna let you wrap it up, Rick. You're really good at it.
I was trying to get out of it tonight, Pete. Dan, really good to see you, man. Thank you for coming on. Mark, so good to meet you. Genuinely. Feel like I made a new friend here. And it was cool seeing you guys on together. Appreciate everything you said. Everybody out there watching this, listen to what Butterbean and Dan Henderson and Marc Mero have to say. There's always a chance. There's always another day. Do your best. Guys, thanks so much.
I was letting you wrap it up. One thing we forgot to do.
Yes.
Like, Dan, what do you got coming up? And Mark, what do you got coming up? Go for it, Dan. What do you got coming up you want to tell people about? Sorry, I forgot about to even ask, but yeah, it's kind of important to me.
I don't know. I'm just working on a project at my gym. I'm putting a brewery, distillery, restaurant in the same building as my gym, and I do hold amateur fights there about 4 times a year, and come check them out if you're ever in the Temecula area.
How people find you online, Dan? How do they check that out?
DanHenderson.com or my gym, DHAFC, Dan Henderson's Athletic Fit Center.
Great. And guys, when we edit the show later, we'll include all your web links and all that in the edit, just FYI.
Awesome.
What do you got coming up, Mark?
Oh, we got Celeb Fest coming up in Maryland, and then I go to New York for I don't know, like an 8-school tour out in New York, and looking forward to that. Just inspiring these kids, man. Just giving these kids hope. If the one thing kids are looking for today is hope, and we as adults have got to really, instead of talking doom and gloom, we got to just show them that there is life after hardships, man, and things will be okay. We're going to get through this pandemic. We're going to get through this as country's best country in the world, and we've got to start praising it instead of putting it down.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Hey, thanks both y'all. Sorry about that, Rick, but I just had to ask him.
All good, man. So good seeing everybody. Eric, amazing seeing you as always, my good friend.
Hey, next week, Rick, we're doing it at a different time from Holland. What time zone are you going from? Yeah,
we're live from Holland next week at noon Pacific, which is 3 p.m. Eastern and 2 p.m. Central Time. Boss Rutten will be back with us. And our guests next week, also from Holland, are Gegard Masasi and Melvin Manov, both. So it should be a pretty interesting discussion. So,
Hey, thanks a lot, guys, and we really appreciate it.
No problem.
Right, thank you guys, man.
Love you guys.
Take care.
good night, gentlemen. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Good night, guys.
Good night, guys.